The termination email lands in my inbox at 9:03 a.m. as Janice smiles across the table. My coffee is still warm in my hand. "You're fired," it says, and Mark just claps like he won. Pause. I was Alex Rivera, Senior Project Manager at Atlas Solutions, and I had 15 years of blood in that company. I ran the Benson retail account. It brought in $312,000 in annual revenue. I kept the client happy for 3 years. My mortgage depended on that steady check. My reputation did too. They told me it was my fault because an invoice I supposedly approved had a rebate line that undercut Benson's pricing by 40%. Benson canceled a planned rollout and slapped Atlas with a $45,000 penalty. Janice Hale, the CEO, read the client email out loud in the meeting room on April 5, 2021 at 8:58 a.m. "This is unacceptable, Alex," she said. Mark Turner, lead accountant, added, "We found the approval in the system, your user ID." He smiled while he said it. I felt my hands go numb. After the meeting, HR escorted me out. I watched slide projectors at my desk go dark. My badge was deactivated at 9:12 a.m. I had 2 weeks of unpaid bills, a mortgage with a $320,000 balance, and 3 freelance gigs that vanished because no one wanted to hire the guy fired for losing a major client. In 6 weeks I lost my apartment, my savings of $16,200, and my friend list. All because Mark had printed my name on a crime. I cried the first week. I sulked the second. By week 3 I was furious, and fury is a terrible but useful thing. I started with the obvious. I called Maya Patel, an old friend who still worked in Atlas IT. I told her everything twice because I could not let this be the end. She agreed to look at logs on the down low. What she found was the turning point. The invoice approval record showed my user ID, yes. But the metadata said the action came from IP 10.4.22.103 at 2:12 a.m. on March 14, 2021. My laptop had a timestamp of 9:03 a.m. the same day, and it had not been logged into at 2:12 a.m. There was an audit trail entry, manual override by admin, Turner. Turner, Mark Turner. Pause. Maya pulled more. The server showed a remote desktop session initiated from Mark's workstation 7B in accounting at 1:58 a.m. He used his admin credentials to alter the approval string and then logged out at 2:15 a.m. The server also contained a deleted CSV file that matched the erroneous rebate. The deletion time was 2:18 a.m. The security camera in the accounting corridor captured Mark slipping in at 1:50 a.m. with a travel mug and leaving at 2:20 a.m. stamped on the footage, March 14, 2021, 2 hours 21 minutes and 3 seconds. In the corner of the frame his travel mug had a bright red sticker with a rooster wearing sunglasses, the exact sticker on the travel mug he brought to the meeting and set on Janice's conference table. I could breathe. The world snapped back into focus, but there was a catch. Maya's access sprang from an off-the-books favor. If I or she leaked without counsel, HR would bury it, or worse, claim we tampered with evidence. I needed a lawyer who moved fast and didn't blink. I called Ethan Cole, a litigator who owed me a favor from college. He charged $250 an hour. I had $137 left in my checking account. He accepted $1,000 in cash and emergency retainer and said, "We expose the trail publicly. We don't file quietly. If we go quiet, they'll hide. Public light is the disinfectant." It was the kind of line a good lawyer uses when he sees a winning pattern. We moved like a swarm. Ethan subpoenaed the server logs and the CCTV from security under a preliminary injunction for discovery. I told Benson Retail the truth. I sent an email to Jeff Benson at 10:17 p.m. on May 2, 2021 with the subject "Proof of Misconduct Atlas Internal." Jeff's assistant replied, "Send everything. We want to know if our contract was sabotaged." They were furious. They had lost a launch and nearly $50,000 in marketing spend. Mark contacted me at 11:05 p.m. that night. His text was 3 smiling emojis and then, "Alex, stop. You don't want to go down this road. Think about your family." My hands shook as I typed, "Show me the logs you used to blame me. Let's settle." He called instead. I didn't answer. Ethan served Mark with a notice on May 7th. He didn't look surprised. He sat across from me at a diner that night and said, "You don't understand, Alex. That rebate was a mistake. I fixed it. I had to cover our payroll shortfall. You were the only name that made sense." He said it like a man explaining a math problem. Like a man who had convinced himself it was an okay crime. He told me in a low voice, "We were down $62,000 in petty cash for March. I had vendors breathing down me. The board would have axed me." He had motive. He stole from petty cash and plastered me with the blame to cover the tracks. The revenge plan was ugly and legal. Ethan said we didn't have to destroy Mark, we just had to make the truth impossible to ignore. So we gathered everything. The server logs, the CCTV footage, the deleted CSV recovered by Maya, the petty cash ledger showing missing $62,000 with withdrawals on March 10th and March 11th, and bank transfers from Mark's side account, a small shell company he used, MST Holdings, to his personal account, showing $26,000 on March 12th. We matched handwriting on petty cash withdrawal slips. We matched his handwriting to sticky notes on his desk that read "Pay vendors, stealth found by a temp" after he was later suspended. We had timestamps, amounts, and faces. On May 14th at 9 a.m. Ethan sent a single PDF to Janice, the Atlas board, and the entire Benson executive team. The subject line read, "Urgent, evidence of fraud and wrongful termination, Alex Rivera." The PDF was 72 pages. Page 1 started with the CCTV still of Mark's hand over the keyboard at 2:12 a.m. with his rooster mug in frame. Page 2 showed the server log with Turner entry. Page 12 showed the bank transfer. Page 37 contained my termination email with a red highlight, 9:03 a.m., sent by HR approved by Rivera, forged. Janice called me at 9:03 a.m. exactly ironic. She was quiet. "We received your file. We will investigate immediately." They put Mark on paid leave at 9:21 a.m. The board scheduled a special meeting for 11:15 a.m. The meeting was theater. I sat in the back of the boardroom while Ethan did the talking. At 11:30 a.m. the IT director walked the room through the logs. At 11:36 a.m. security played the CCTV. At 11:39 a.m. a Benson executive read an email chain Ethan recovered from Mark's personal account where he joked, "Alex will take the fall, he's always too trusting." That was the line that made Janice go white. Mark started to stammer. He reached for an explanation and then for his phone. Security escorted him out at 11:52 a.m. But we didn't stop at a firing. Ethan filed a civil suit for wrongful termination and fraud on my behalf on May 20th. He attached the evidence and made it public. Every court filing was uploaded to public record. The local paper ran, "Atlas accountant used admin credentials to forge approval," board says, on May 25th. The Benson CEO sent me a private apology email at 2:07 p.m. that day and reopened discussions about contract recovery. Criminal investigators arrived June 3rd. Mark was arrested on June 11th for embezzlement and wire fraud relating to the petty cash and the fake approvals that hid his withdrawals. The DA charged him with theft of $62,000 and fraud for the invoice manipulation that caused the client penalty. He later pled guilty to one count and was sentenced to 14 months probation and ordered to pay $68,000 in restitution. Janice held a meeting on July 2nd where she apologized to me on behalf of Atlas. She offered to reinstate me with back pay of $98,500 including damages. I accepted the settlement check of $120,000 on August 1st and signed a release. I did not take my old job back. The wins were thin consolation. I had slept on friends' couches until August. My credit score took a year to climb back. My mother cried when she saw my bank balance shrink. I lost 2 years of professional goodwill I had spent 15 building. But the truth was public. The board restructured controls. Atlas hired a new CFO. Mark moved away. The Benson account returned to Atlas in November with a new contract that was smaller, $210,000, and I helped them transition back as an independent consultant. When the dust settled, I started a small consultancy, Rivera Risk Assessment. My first contract was $6,500 to audit controls for a startup. By March 2022, I had 3 steady clients and an emergency fund again. But the revenge didn't fill the nights when I woke up thinking of what I'd lost. Winning a lawsuit didn't bring back the stolen years. It didn't bring back the quiet hallway conversations where people used to ask me for favors. There was a flavor of satisfaction when Mark's name came up in gossip and the new accounting hires whispered about what happens if you fake an approval. I walked past the accounting department once and saw the rooster mug sticker torn off from the breakroom shelf. It felt petty and right. People asked me why I exposed him publicly instead of quietly taking the settlement. I could have accepted Janice's private offer in May, collected $20,000 hush money, and moved on. Instead, I chose a harsh, public path. Losing everything made that decision simple. I didn't want a whisper to become someone's warning that they could hurt you and get away with it. Justice came, but it was expensive. I paid Ethan $42,000 in legal fees, which the settlement partly covered. I lost clients who wanted no drama. I lost faith in some coworkers who stood by during the meeting. I gained a few people who called me brave. I gained a thicker skin. Sometimes I still think about the moment Janice read the client email. I think of Mark's smile. I think of my coffee going cold in my hand as the termination notice blinked on my screen. Pause. If you were in my shoes, with the logs, the CCTV, and a pile of evidence, would you have gone public and smashed him in front of the board, or taken the quiet settlement and rebuilt in private? What would you have done?